What's going on, guys?
What
Welcome
up?
back.
Hey.
It's your boy Anthony,
And Gooch.
and we're here to break down episode 3 of Last of Us, Long, Long Time. So, we open up with our first kind of continuous timeline from the present timeline, so 2023. We open up to Joel at a river, probably a day after Tess passed away. He's kind of rinsing off his hand. You could see his kind of scabbed up knuckles. You obviously know his hand is broken, probably still at this point, so he still feels it. Takes it out of the river, and then you see Joel building a little stack of rocks, which to me kind of felt like a monument to Tess.
A memorial, yeah.
Yeah. And then we cut back to Joel walking back to Ellie. She's kind of just waiting on him to finish up, kind of cleaning up for the morning. Joel goes and opens up a little pack of food, starts eating a little bit. And then you see kind of his thought process. He's like, he's thinking about something, and then he ends up tossing the food to Ellie. So you know that he's in the process of realizing that he needs to take care of her.
Yeah, and it's reluctant.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like what you said about Ellie talking to him last week. He's like, all right, let me toss her a sandwich.
Yeah. So then, Ellie gets to a point where she's kind of, there's an elephant in the room. Obviously, Tess just passed away. You know that everybody's dealing with their emotions in different way. Mm-hmm. And Ellie kind of wants to bring up that, she initially starts talking and Joel stops her immediately. He's like, I don't need your apologies. And Ellie's like, buddy, I wasn't going to apologize to you. I just wanted to make it abundantly clear. The choice to take me was yours. I didn't force myself upon you.
Right.
We didn't force any of this on you guys. You guys chose to because you needed the truck battery.
Yeah.
So she was like, please don't hold a grudge against me for a choice that you made. And then another brilliant moment of acting from Pedro Pascal, internalizes everything, basically gives her a little bit of a nod. Mm-hmm. And you understand that he understands that he has no right to feel bad or feel mad at Ellie for what happened with Tess.
And again, I love how quickly this happens. Again, it stretches out a little bit longer in the game. You feel his anger for much longer. And we shut it down in one scene here. She's like, let's not do this. Mm-hmm. I know you're angry, but don't direct your anger at me. Mm-hmm. You made a choice. It went bad. Let's make the best of it. You know?
So then they get ready for their journey. So they're about to go to Frank and Bill's, which we realize is going to be about a 5-mile hike from where they're at currently.
5 hour.
5-hour hike. Yeah, that's right. Hike. Mm-hmm. Ellie's like, all right, we can handle that. So they begin the little hike. They stop at this kind of a broken down store or something like that, old storefront. Joel tells Ellie that he has some supplies stashed in there. So they go in there. Joel starts looking for the supplies, and Ellie, being a curious kid, starts kind of exploring the store. Joel's like, it's been picked over. Ellie's like, I bet you it hasn't. So she finds a little hatch that leads to the basement.
Mm-hmm. And without telling Joel, she looks and she's like, oh, he's not watching me. She opens the hatch and goes into this dark basement. Again, we're like, man, this girl.
Ballsy.
She's ballsy. She's a G.
Yeah.
Like, not like, Joel, you want to come take a look at this?
Nah, man. Born in this world. Made
right
for
on
this
her
world.
own. And so she ends up in this basement, kind of, hold up. She finds some shelves. Very much like the game.
Very much.
Looks like because a lot of the game is scavenging for supplies. And she finds something on a shelf. She's like, yes.
Yeah.
Told you. Then all of a sudden we hear.
Yeah, the sound of infected is somewhere in the basement, which we were like, oh, here we go. Ellie's about to get in a fight. Mm-hmm. She pauses, freezes, pulls up her flashlight, and you see that there's an infected buried under a bunch of rubble. So who knows how long that guy's been there. Ellie approaches. I mean, she really has no reason to be scared at this point. He's immobile. She knows she can't get infected. Mm-hmm. So she approaches him and...
Very curious.
Very curious. So she cuts the head open. You're able to see the mycelium kind of throughout under the scar. Mm-hmm. A little bit of liquid comes out. Can't even really call it blood. It really wasn't red. It was super, super dark and gross. Mm-hmm. And you can see that the infection really does take over your whole body, which is why I think, pulling back to episode 1, with Nana in the wheelchair, that's kind of why the cordyceps were able to rise above her physical ailments, because they take control of your entire body. It's almost like you don't even need your muscles anymore, because the mycelium is controlling you all at this point.
Right. That's what I was thinking, was because when she slices him open, the thing doesn't react at all. It's not like there's any pain or any discomfort at all. It's almost like he doesn't even feel it, you know? So you know that this fungus really is protective. Again, like I said, it infects them and makes them sick, but it also protects itself as an infection, which infections try to do, you know?
It's trying to make itself as efficient as possible. Yeah. So then Ellie decides she's going to finish this guy off, and you see, you know, her put the dagger right into his head, and you see this feeling of satisfaction kind of flow over her, which harks back to the past few episodes where the violent is enticing to her in some way. She likes it. She's looking forward to it in a way, which, you know, is a little odd to think about in the world that we live in now, but in the world that she's been brought up in, all she knows is violence, all she knows is survival. And it seems like she's been preparing herself mentally and kind of physically, I guess, in the military school where she was growing up in. So she's kind of been looking for a fight, and, you know, eventually she's definitely going to get it. So
cut to back in the store, Joel's kind of found where his supplies are, and he realizes how long he's not heard from Ellie. He's like, Ellie? So he goes to check the next room, and as soon as he gets there, Ellie walks out. It's like, oh, okay. And he's like, what's going on? She's like, I found some supplies. Yeah. Doesn't even mention the clicker. No. So I thought that was really interesting, that she was very curious about it and wanted to kill it, and doesn't even mention it to Joel.
A little glimpse of her ability to be independent, which is going to play in definitely some later episodes.
Absolutely.
So then they continue on their journey. We come across a crashed plane, which I thought was great because it was the first image that they released.
And Ellie's like, whoa, because she's never been on
she's like,
airplane.
oh, have you been on one of these before? He's like, yeah, it sucked. The sandwiches were expensive. We're all crammed in there together. She was like, but you've been in the sky. Like, that's amazing. So, you know, a little perspective makes you appreciate kind of what we have right now. But what I did like about that shot is it was the first image that HBO released when they announced that The Last of Us was going to be a show. So it was the plane crash in the field. It was the back of Ellie and Joel. So I was like, oh, cool. We finally get to see where that image came from. They continue on their journey. Joel's trying to deviate from the path because there's something coming up that he doesn't want Ellie to see. Obviously, Joel's being real honest about it. So Ellie's, you know, naturally is like, I want to go see it. I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah. And
Joel's like, no, you can't do that. She's like, is it going to hurt me? He's like, no. And she's like, well, you should have lied and told me that it was, because now I'm going to keep going. Right. So they continue on, and they find this field of bones and luggage, and, you know, it's just a mass of people. And then Joel tells the story about how Fedra kind of handled the beginnings of the outbreak. And, you know, there were quarantine zones, but obviously those filled up quickly. They were in major cities. So once they moved out to the small towns in the outskirts and started gathering people, that amount of space dwindled to basically nothing. So these people that they gathered, they had to basically take them out in kind of a big field massacre style. You know, you've heard about them in different wars and stuff like that, but to, you know, realize that the American government was capable of that, you know, really opens your eyes to the capabilities of Fedra.
Yeah. And Ellie asks him just to be sure. So she's like, you mean these people were not infected? He's like, nope, not at all. They just killed them because there wasn't enough space and enough resources to take care of them.
Yeah.
She's like, well, why not just leave them then? Why not leave them be? Because he's like, well, if they're dead, they can't be infected.
Yeah, so it's like less and potential future enemies for them.
Right.
Which is devastating. And then we cut to the flashback, and in the cut, it's like a mother and her child.
Which I love they set up because there's a shot of the bones and some very colorful clothing, patterned clothing, that's still kind of lingering on the bones. And we cut right from the shot of that clothing to a person wearing that exact clothing. It's a mother holding her baby. You see all the people who are getting rounded up in this small town by Fedra and getting ready to be taken out. They get these people on a truck and they leave the town, and we're thinking, oh my God, are we going to see them?
Yeah, I was like holding my breath. I was like, man, I don't want to see this mother and her kid get massacred. You know what I mean? Like, this is not like anything that's going to be fun to see at all. But what it was is we kind of moved positions into the town, like we said. So they're gathering all these people up. And then we get introduced to Bill. So Bill is held up in the basement of the house that he currently lives in. He's a doomsday prepper. So he's got cameras, he's got guns, ammo, supplies. He's ready to go.
Lots of weapons and supplies.
So you get to see in some of the shots once he turns on the lights, walls of guns, supplies, canned goods. He's ready to go. So he's watching these federal officers gather all these people up. They enter his home. He's very quiet. You can hear the footsteps above him. And, they can't find anything. They end up leaving. And, the town is empty at this point. Bill comes up from his bunker, makes sure the coast is clear, and then gets to work. It's like his dream has come true in some kind of messed up way, So he gathers his truck. He gathers a boat, which he guts, which I was kind of like, what's he doing with that? But it's just a way to kind of gather more supplies. So you see him in a montage. Go to Home Depot, go to the gas station, go to a natural gas plant, and get everything that he needs to hold himself up.
Yeah. Filling tanks of gas, getting all the supplies he needs. It's pretty cool to watch him do that. So in the game, this chapter is called Bill's Town. And you see it becoming Bill's Town because now everyone's gone. He realizes that, and he's like, all right, now I'm going to set up to protect. And so the rest of the sequence, we see him just working hard on building traps, digging holes, cutting down trees, getting himself wood, preparing all these little bombs and tripwires and everything. So he rigs this whole town up and protects where his house is fully. Yep. He's intending to stay there forever.
Another cool thing about that montage is it shows that Bill is capable of being self-sufficient. He has chickens. You see him have a garden. You see him prepping meat. So this guy's ready to go. Like, he's built for this pandemic that's coming his way, and he's built to be alone. He doesn't really need help from the outside.
And the day ends with him making himself what looks like a beautiful meal, not a bunch of scavenged whatever I can eat. He makes a beautiful gourmet meal and sits down and really enjoys it and savors it, and he looks happy. It's the first time we see him happy.
The power's on, there's music playing. He's watching his CCTV. Like, obviously there's no TV at this point. So his CCTV is his entertainment. He gets a little buzz. He sees that one of his traps is getting switched on. So you see one of the, kind of stray zombies trip one of the wires, and he's set up with a rifle right there. Boom, shoots him in the head, and he loves it. He is like, this doesn't get old, So that's his entertainment.
Yeah.
And then we cut to 4 years later, and this is how Bill and Frank meet. Bill gets another one of those alarms that go off.
Gets tripped. Yeah.
He sees that one of his holes has been uncovered, so he knows somebody's in there. He suits up like he's done this a million times, and he's ready to go out there and kill whatever infected is in the hole. And while he approaches, he hears a voice.
And right when he cocks his shotgun.
Yeah, so you can tell like the guy knows someone's coming.
The guy hears it who's in the hole, and he says, hey, I'm not infected.
I'm not infected.
I'm not infected.
And then, Bill's like, oh, man, that's an actual person. Bill's first question, are you alone? And you could tell that, he's ready for whatever. He's scanning the woods. He's seeing if there's another group of people kind of waiting on this guy or trying to save this guy. And eventually we find out he is alone. He was in a group of 10. They were leaving Baltimore, which had the Baltimore QZ has collapsed at this point. They escaped. They're trying to get to Boston. And eventually this guy's group of 10 is dwindled down to just Frank. So he gets Frank out of the hole. They end up talking with each other. And Frank obviously is a people person. He's able to make light of the situation. The man has a gun in his face, and Frank is making, kind of lighthearted jokes. Like, he's like, I'm hungry. He's like, I haven't eaten for 2 days. And he's like, man, that doesn't sound bad at all. Like hearing it out loud, like that's really not that long.
Right.
And then you can see, he can also see that Bill's guard is slowly going down because he's realizing that this guy isn't a threat. And then Bill lets him in and lets him take a shower and is like, I'll feed you, but then you're going to be on your way.
While he's showering, I thought this was an interesting moment. Frank's in the shower. Bill walks into the bedroom that he's kind of prepped him in, and he puts down some clean clothes for him. And he takes kind of a little moment of pause, and he looks at the door of the bathroom. He looks a little like he wants to go in there almost.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this first little insight, like, oh, is he is he nervous? And does he like this guy?
Yeah, yeah.
This is really interesting. But it's very cute. And he's like, no, well, I'd left you some clean clothes. Come on down. Cut to, he's clean and fresh. He's downstairs, and Bill comes out with a fully made another gourmet dinner, right? Puts it down on the plate in front of him. Frank's like,
this is crazy.
wow, like real food.
So this is 4 years into the pandemic. So Frank hasn't seen a real meal in 4 years.
Right.
Like, he's been eating beef jerky and hardtack for 4 years at this point.
Whatever snacks he could find.
Before he brings in the food, though, one point that I did like was he explores the room a little bit, and he goes to the shelf and he realizes that it's dusty.
Dusty, yeah.
So I think in that moment, Frank realizes that he could have a place in Bill's life because there's
That's
like
a good point.
something that there's a gap that he can fill there. You know, Bill obviously is good with protection. He's good with the traps. He's good with being prepared for that. But Frank can give him that loving touch as far as making sure that things are clean, making sure the details are all buttoned up.
Right.
So he sees that opportunity. Bill comes in with the food. He's like, what's this guy doing? Sits down. They start talking. They're eating rabbit. My man Bill pours him a Beaujolais. Like he's cultured. He knows what's good. Obviously he can cook, but he knows what to pair that food with. I also loved. I work in hospitality. When he poured the Beaujolais, he was labeled towards the guest.
And he's holding the nipple.
He's holding the bunt of the bottle. I was like, oh man, this guy's every step is correct, and the way that it should be, the way that a civilized world should be. So, you know, Frank's starting to realize that there's a little bit of an in. You know, they finish their food, and Bill's like, all right, it's time to be on your way. He's still kind of in that same mindset, like, I don't need to trust anybody. I'm safer on my own. And then Frank's like, I noticed a piano. Like, before I go, please, like, let me go check out the piano. So he looks into the seat of the piano, looking for some music to play. Goes through all this like classical music that he realizes is his mother's, and then he pulls out the Linda Ronstadt kind of music
Linda
folder.
Ronstadt songbook.
Yeah, a little songbook, man. And he's like, I know, oh, this is yours, you know? Because I think Frank's starting to clock Bill a little bit. Bill mentions that when he's pouring the wine, he's like, I know I don't seem like the guy that would know about this kind of stuff. And Frank's like, you know, you do. Yeah, you do kind of seem like the guy. In the moment, we still don't really know what's going on.
It's almost like him saying,
like, are you saying you're cultured, or, you know, is he seeing him as who he actually is?
I see who you really are, yeah.
So then he pulls out the Linda Ronstadt. Frank starts playing, you know, pretty terribly and singing not that great. And Bill stops him, and he's like, bro, don't ruin my favorite song.
Please don't ruin this for me.
Yeah, which is the song, which is the same song as the title of the episode, which is Long, Long Time, which is, you know, with the lyrics and the song itself is really a through line for the entire episode. It kind of bookmarks, you know, the beginning of the end of this tale that we're going on. And then Bill's like, nah, let me slide in here. And then you realize that Bill is a phenomenal piano player, beautiful piano player. You know, not the best voice in the world, but the man's got heart, and he obviously loves this song. Sings the song to Frank. Frank is like, all right, I'm just gonna straight up ask, you know, who's the girl you're singing about? And he's like, there was never a girl. And then Frank's like, all right, cool.
Frank says,
I know. Yeah, he's like, I already knew there wasn't. So then he, you know, they have a romantic moment. Frank goes in for a kiss. It's really tender. Like, you could tell that Bill is so nervous. So then you know, you realize, oh man, is this like Bill's first kiss period? Like, is it, because he seemed like a recluse.
And these are not young men.
These
are probably men in their 40s.
Late 40s, early 50s or something.
Like, wow, how is this so tender? Yeah. And this is so new to him.
Yeah, so sweet and innocent. And then, you know, Frank's like, go take a shower. Then it cuts to the bedroom. And then, you know, Frank lets him know, like, hey, I'm not trying to have sex just for free lunch. Like, I want this, you know, to continue. I want to stay for a couple days. You know, they have their moment. He realizes that Bill's never been with a man before, but obviously has had these feelings. You know, think about it. Bill's a doomsday prepper. He was probably really conservative. He was probably religious, you know? So there was probably a lot of things fighting those feelings that he was having in the normal world. And, you know, he's obviously in his mom's house still. Like that's where his bunker is. It's his mom's piano. He obviously didn't move that in. It's a really nice house. So the guy's been living with his mom, who probably passed away years before the pandemic happened. So it just kind of says a lot, his personality and the type of guy he was. So really internalize all those feelings that he has, his true emotions, and he's able to play them out. And Frank's the catalyst for that. And it was really, really tender and beautiful to see.
Beautiful love scene.
Yeah. And then we go to, he said, I'm going to be here for a couple of days. And we cut to 3 years later. So Frank's been in there for 3 years.
Cut to
an argument. Yeah. They're having a fight. So back to the
relationships.
The detail of him kind of dusting the shelf off. Frank wants to use the lawnmower. He wants some paint.
He wants to paint
He
the
wants
house.
to kind of touch up the town. Like he wants it to look nice.
And he explains that that's just a matter of not just loving yourself, but it's a matter of care and love.
Like, he's like,
let's love this area that we're in.
He's like, we don't just live in the home. This town is our home too. He's like, I want everything to be nice. So he's like, I'm going to touch up the wine shop. I'm going to touch up the boutique. And he's like, I'm going to mow these lawns. I'm going to do a little bit of landscaping. He was like, why? He was like, what are we going to have, dinner parties? And the reason Frank really wants to do all this is he's been talking to a lady on the radio, a really nice lady.
And Bill is shocked.
Yeah, Bill's like, you've been
doing what?
Yeah, exactly. He's so not happy about it.
Told people that we're out here?
So we don't see the conclusion of that. All we do is cut to them having a little dinner party with two people. And we see that it's Joel and Tess, which I thought was beautiful, but also so tragic because you realize that Joel and Tess have had a relationship for at least 10 years. Who's to say how long they've met before, meeting Frank and Bill. So that just broke my heart because we never really knew in the game how long they'd been together or how long their relationship had been. But I mean, 10 years is a significant amount of time. So that just, broke my heart a little bit knowing that,
and I
Tess
thought it
had
was
passed away.
Very subtle, but I thought the makeup was excellent on that scene because Tess they both look and
a lot
feel
cleaner and younger.
Yeah. And it's really good.
Yes.
It's like you believe that's many years before.
So Tess and Frank are kind of, they've been talking on the radio, they're bonding. Frank is like, hey, let me take you inside. Let me show you the inside. Bill's like, no, don't take him inside. And she's like, Frank's like, don't worry about it. So brings Tess in. So then it's just Bill and Joel sitting there. Bill's had his gun out on the table the whole time, doesn't trust anybody, sees in Joel that he's the protector guy, he's the danger, he's the one I need to be worried about. And then Joel starts speaking Bill's language. He was like, look, we can help each other out. He was like, your fence is crap. He was like, you've got maybe a year tops on that fence before it starts corroding away. He was like, I can get you some aluminum for the fence. He was like, the QZ has stuff you don't have. First thing he says is medicine, which plays into the next few scenes. Machine parts. I can get you different kinds of food that you guys don't have here. So Bill starts realizing that this relationship could work out for the both of them.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to them walking out, like the dinner's over, they're about to leave. Frank and Tess are like exchanging clothes and items, and Tess is like, oh, what if I don't see you? He's like, we're definitely going to see each other again. And then Bill and Joel are talking, and Joel's like, look, you're good against Fedra. They're not going to come up here. This is not where they go. You're really good against any of the infected. Your setup, all your traps work really, really well. But what you're not prepared for are raiders. And he's like, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually raiders are going to come to try to get your stuff. They're going to come at night. They're going to be quiet.
They're going to be armed.
Yeah, they're going to be armed. You need to be ready. Then we cut to 3 years.
3 years
after
later.
that. It actually cuts to the raiders cutting the fence, being quiet. You see it's like a big group of them. They're getting a little closer. And then one of the traps goes off. And it's like buzzsaws. And I was like, dang, it's for the infected. I was like, maybe they're supposed to like cut their legs, but they're shooting sparks. And then boom, the gas starts getting pumped out, which is why he was at the natural gas place.
Right.
So this is part of his little traps that he was building. And then, a couple of them catch on fire. Then you start hearing shots, and it cuts to Frank in bed being woken up by all this.
Yeah.
Really cool shots. The background is being lit up by the flames. It's all coming through the windows. Frank has no idea what's going on. He's calling for Bill, calling for Bill, calling for Bill.
And I love that we see Frank looking out the windows, and you see huge flashes of light and loud noises, but they don't show what he's seeing. He's just looking panicked out the window, like, what's going on?
Shots are going by, you hear him zinging, you hear windows breaking, and then Frank goes to the drawer, grabs his pistol, or at least the one that Bill's always been like, when stuff's going down, go to this drawer, this pistol will always be ready.
It's close to the front door of the house.
Busts out the door, and there's Bill, bro, handling business with a sniper. Boom, popping him. Boom, popping him. What I didn't really like is my guy standing in the middle of the street.
Totally exposed.
I was like, bro, like, sit where Frank is, like behind the pottery, behind the planter or something.
Frank takes cover. Bill's in the middle of the street.
Which shows that Bill isn't really, which I didn't like, but then I thought about it a little more, and I was like, oh, Bill's just, like, not trained. Like, he's just some guy that, like, read about guns in books and, like, obviously wasn't in the military, was just kind of a paranoid guy. Yeah. So a little touch to his background and the fact that he wasn't trained. And then, you know, obviously he's in the middle of the street. He's fighting like 20 dudes. He gets popped a couple times, gets hit in the leg, gets hit in the side. And then Frank brings him in. He's taken out the majority of them. And Bill's in dire straits. I was almost like, I thought Bill was about to go. And I was like, man, this is a different, definitely a different twist than the game.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, because in the game, you meet Bill, he takes you on a little adventure. They need to go get a car battery. They go to a school. There's a big fight with infected. And then he gets Joel and Ellie on their way in a car. So I was like, oh man, maybe they're changing it and making it Frank. And, you know, the story that we heard in the game is a little bit different. But he survives. Frank saves him. You know, Bill passes out. His last thing he says to Frank is, call Joel. Because he knows Joel can handle his business. He's like, Joel will protect you. So then we open up to 10 years later. So we're back on the present timeline, and
we reveal that Bill is still alive.
Bill is still alive.
He saved him.
And
but now Frank is very obviously sick.
Yeah.
You can see it in his face. He's aged a lot, and he's sitting in a wheelchair.
He's wheelchair ridden. So he's like sitting, he's like wheeled him out to like sit on the front porch for a little while. And the creators said that he's obviously dealing with a neurodegenerative disease, which I thought was so sad because in the scene prior, you see that Frank planted a field of strawberries because he knows that Bill loves strawberries.
Yes.
Which I'll actually come back and talk about a little bit. So they're on a little jog, and then Bill's like, he's hurting, bro, side hurting. He can barely run. Frank gets him to the strawberries, and he's like, I'm going to show you a little surprise. And then they sit, they have some strawberries. Bill has a really beautiful, like, crying, laughing moment because, like, it's so good, and he probably hasn't had strawberries in years. They cut to probably the most beautiful shot in the whole episode. It's them two like enjoying the moment with the sun in the background. They have like a tender kiss, a tender moment. Bill lets him know, like, man, I was never scared of anything until you came into my life. Now I'm so scared of losing you. And in that moment, he says to him, I'm sorry that I'm getting older faster than you are. Bill says it to Frank. And then we cut to the 10 years later, and it's Frank who really has, not aged well, and his neurodegenerative disease has progressed so much that he's wheelchair ridden, he can't walk anymore, can barely kind of feed himself, his motor functions have dwindled to almost nothing. The creators don't tell you what it is, but it's definitely like ALS or MS, one of those neurodegenerative diseases, but they're not going to specify what it is.
I thought the contrast was beautiful there between the previous scenes and where we jump to 10 years later because, they're very much setting up that, okay, Bill's going to be the one to go first. He's older, he's been shot now, he's weak, but then we cut to 10 years later, and it's actually Frank. It just kind of speaks to the unpredictability of life.
So, it cuts to their kind of day-to-day. Bill helps feed Frank and makes him his soup, and I'm sure, like, his ability to process foods is totally different now, and, like, Frank sits in the little sunroom and paints, actually quite beautifully. All the paintings that he had were really, really cool. But it shows the generation, so you could see, like, half of the painting is really well done, and then the other half is not as well done because I guess his disease has progressed so that his motor functions are dwindling like that. And then, they go to bed, they're 20 years into the relationship at this point, a little peck, a little turnaround, we're asleep. And then it cuts to the morning and Frank is in his wheelchair. And Bill's like, what are you doing? He's like, man, this took hours. He was like, I'm exhausted. And Bill's like, bro, get back into bed. You're going to fall asleep in your wheelchair. We can't be doing this. I don't want your feet going numb. And Frank's like, no, I promise I'm not going to go to sleep. He was like, why? He was like, because today is my last day. And it cuts to them in the living room, and Bill's like, what? Why? And, Frank's like, we've had a bunch of good days. I've had bad days as well. He was like, this is just getting worse. He was like, Bill's like, what if a doctor comes? He was like, I need an MRI. There was no cure for this disease, even when the world didn't go to crap. Mm-hmm. He was like, I want to go out on my own terms, and I want to go out after I have another great day with the person that I love. Mm-hmm. So Bill, internalizes all that. You can tell it's really hard for him to accept that. Obviously, Frank is the one person in this world that he loves and cares about, the one thing that he's been kind of in his own mind sworn to protect. And now this person wants to, leave the world. Mm-hmm. And Bill's kind of have to come to terms with that. And, there's really no way to psych himself out of it, because Frank has every right to go out the way that he wants to go out, you know? And he just wants to go out on his terms. He's like, I want to have a good day. I want to go to the boutique. I want to get dressed up. He says, I want to get married. He said, we're going to get married tonight, which I thought was so beautiful and so sweet. And he's like, I want you to cook me a delicious dinner, and then I want you to put some pills into my wine, and I just want to fall asleep in your arms and not wake up the next morning, And then one detail that we picked up after doing a little bit of research is, so the pandemic hit in 2003. Gay marriage wasn't legalized until 2004 in our world. So in their world, gay marriage was never legalized at all. So This is very special, very unique, something that wouldn't have happened in the world that they left,
And we realized that the first state to allow gay marriage was
Massachusetts, which is where they're at. They're 10 miles outside of Boston. So then they go to the boutique, they get dressed up, really just beautifully shot. The director of this episode was Peter Hoare, who's done a bunch of TV, little couple episodes and a bunch of series, a lot of Marvel work. But just his ability to direct this episode was phenomenal. I mean, some of the most beautiful shots.
And again, from a script by Craig Mazin.
Another Craig Mazin script. He's killing it. So then, they go to the boutique. The wind is blowing. There's flowers. I mean, the whole thing is beautiful. They're all dressed up in their little suits, and then they're sitting by the piano exchanging rings. It's just beautifully shot. We go to the dinner, and it's the same dinner that he made him the first go around. The rabbit.
Picked that up too. They don't say it. He doesn't say anything, but the plate looks exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
He does out another Beaujolais and presents
probably the last Beaujolais in the wine cabinet. Saved it for a special occasion, and what could be more special than this? But yeah, really, really beautiful. What a love story. You know what I mean? It was heartbreaking, tender, but beautiful at the same time. Super tender. And then, he brings out the wine at the end, the nice bottle of whatever it was. He pours each of them a glass. My man's crushed up a bunch of pills. There's a ton of powder. Pours it into the glass, scoots it over to Frank, and, Frank kind of makes peace with it and, down the hatch. And then Bill takes his little wine and down the hatch as well. And Frank is like, did you crush up medicine in the bottle before you brought it out here? He was like, enough to kill a horse. One of my favorite lines was, this isn't supposed to be the tragic end where the lovers kill themselves at the end of the play. I'm old. I'm tired. He was like, you're the reason that I was living.
We've had a great life.
And we've had a great life.
20 years.
Yeah, and it's so true. And I mean, there's no way that you can't look at their story and just feel like so happy for them, because they won. The infection, the pandemic, what's going on in the outside world, buddy, they've been taking hot showers, eating great meals, drinking alcohol, living it like it's normal, the civilized life for the past 20 years. So
and most important, loving and taking care of each other.
Exactly.
While humanity has broken down, the humanity is alive and well in their home.
Yeah, there's still a little glimpse of what it could be and also what it was with them. So I found it so poetic that they were able to, go out on their own terms, which is very different from the game. You end up meeting Bill, Frank's passed away. Frank gets bit and ends up killing himself because he doesn't want to live the life of an infected.
So we don't get any of this pre-story. I know I heard the creator say this is probably going to be the biggest jump from the game to the TV show. Like he said, we meet Frank dead when you're in the game. Like, oh, he's already dead, and we find a suicide note. So when they get to Bill, they take him the note, and he's upset. He's like, I can't believe he killed himself like that. And you can tell that's when you find out, oh, they were in love. He was in love.
And they don't ever really say it in the game. It's some things you pick up in little details, and now we really get a fully fleshed out story. It really was Bill's episode. Like, let's be honest. And
instead, you go on a little mission with Bill to go through the town and try and find this car battery. Right? So the show totally different here, giving us this whole backstory of Frank and Bill.
Which I thought we were still going to go on the journey when Joel opens up the garage and then opens up the trunk or opens up the hood of the car, and he's like, there's no battery in here. He's like, why can't I find a battery? But, you know, Bill being Bill had broken down the battery, put it in the fridge, broken it down to the essential components to see if you could use them for other things. Joel and Ellie make it to the town. Bill and Frank went into the bedroom, closed the door. That's the last you see of it. You know exactly what's happening. Cuts to, you know, who knows how much time has passed, maybe a month or two since they kind of had their moment, Bill and Frank. Joel and Ellie come in. Joel knows the code. Boop, 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 opens the door. Realizes that something's a little off. You know, things are overgrown. The flowers are dead. Walks into the house. It's wide open, you know. Everything is right where we left it. The bag with the crushed up pills still there. The wine glasses. The food has been decomposed a little bit. So, you know, us as the viewers, we kind of know what they're walking into. Joel's exploring the house, and he gets to the bedroom door. And then, you know, Ellie makes a move. The front door closes, and he comes back around, and Ellie has found a letter with a key on it. The letter says, to whomever might find this, most likely Joel or something like that, because he knows that Joel is the only one that knows how to get past the traps and everything. And then Ellie kind of reads him the note, and the note is beautiful, heartbreaking, powerful. It shows you the mindset that they're going to have in the future, and it also is devastating to what happened with Tess in the past. So, you know, in the letter, Bill tells Joel to protect the people that he loves. Like, that's been Bill's MO for his entire life, was protecting Frank. And he's like, protect the ones you love. I know you're capable of it. He was like, you know, God help whoever stands in our way, which I'm like, yeah, absolutely, bro, because it's about to go down, especially, you know, in these next few episodes.
And very specifically in the letter, he says, I know that you want to protect. And Joel doesn't want to read the letter. He asks Ellie to read it. She's reading it to him, and she said, well, I know that you want to protect. And she stops, and we know that he's now written Tess in there, and she knows that's a trigger. And Joel knows what it's going to say too, and he's just like, "Give me the letter," and so that triggers him. You see, he has a moment. He's like, "I need a moment." He goes outside. He realizes again he's lost Tess, the person he loved. Bill's telling him, "This is your opportunity. I want you to have all my supplies so that you can protect Tess." And Tess is already gone.
She's already gone, man. And it's like so sad because, you know, he was tasked to protect his daughter. He couldn't do it. He knows he should have protected Tess. He couldn't do it. Now, third time's a charm. You know what I mean? Like,
big chance.
He doesn't have, you know, Ellie's not in his heart as much as his daughter and Tess were at this moment, but obviously that's going to grow. Their relationship, their bond is going to grow. And now it's his kind of last opportunity to fulfill that destiny that he has as being the ultimate protector.
Yeah, absolutely.
They go jump down to Bill's little bunker. They're grabbing supplies. Ellie once again is like, can I get a gun? There's a wall of them. And Joel's like, absolutely not. Still no. So then Joel's out looking for the car and, you know, trying to figure out the battery. And Ellie's being a kid, going through all the drawers, looking through all the stuff. And she opens that same drawer that Frank did whenever they got ambushed. And she sees Frank's pistol in there. And she seizes the moment. She grabs it, throws it in the backpack real quick. Joel comes in. Doesn't suspect a thing. So I'm looking forward to see how that gun plays out in these next few episodes. We get to the same conclusion that we get to in the game. They get the truck, they get some supplies, and they're on their way to potentially Pittsburgh, which is where they go in the game, but they're just on their way to go save Joel's brother. Like that's the mission. Joel tells Ellie, "This is what I'm going to do. My brother's a part of the Fireflies,
and he's out west.
He's out west,
which is where they said the Fireflies
Wyoming
are.
or something, right? Or Montana or something, Wyoming." And he's like, "Once I get there, maybe they'll know where these doctors, these scientists are, this hospital that I'm supposed to bring you to. So this is our mission now." They jump in the Chevy S10, and Ellie is blown away. She's never been in a car. She's like, "This is a spaceship. This is incredible. Wow, look at all these buttons.
Flipping all the switches, opening the glove box.
Yeah,
wow.
She puts on her seatbelt. She's like, "This is awesome." You know what I mean? Like, and it's so funny. And then they're driving away, and they find a little tape, little Linda Ronstadt action. Joel's a big fan, obviously. He was like, "Oh, that's Linda. We're not skipping this.
Yeah,
Put
let
this
that
in.
play.
Let that play." And it's the same song. So like I said at the beginning, it bookends the episode. And if you listen to the lyrics, they played really well with Bill and Frank. "I'm going to love you for a really long time." Like, you see that kind of manifesting in the scene. And then with Joel and Ellie driving away, listening to the same, because I watch it with subtitles, and to read the lyrics, I was like, oh man, this is their journey. Like,
it's a foreshadowing of their relationship.
Yes, Joel's going to learn to love her, and she's going to be
other.
the biggest relationship that's ever been in his life. And he gets to redo the father-daughter thing that he never got a chance to do. And then another beautiful shot. We pull back into the house. We pull back into the window. Curtains flailing in the wind. He said that he left the window open so the house didn't smell. So we're in the room with Bill and Frank, and you see the car driving in the distance. And I just thought it was, so beautiful. In my mind, it was almost like a way for the spirit of Bill and Frank to be looking out and being like, all right, cool. The right person got our stuff. They're on the way. We did what we needed to do in that moment.
And for the gamers, this also evokes the feeling that you get, because we all know that the opening screen, the menu screen for that game, is a shot of an empty window looking outside, little drapes blowing in the wind, and that's exactly what we get here.
Yeah, and that's what we ended on, and then that's the end of the episode, and really great. I mean, it was Bill and Frank's episode, let's be honest. Obviously, we're continuing our journey with Joel and Ellie. If you saw the previews for next week, I think it's going to be action-packed. Excited for you guys to see what definitely Joel, but also Ellie is capable of in this world. They're 3 for 3 so far.
They're not making changes for the sake of making changes.
Nah.
Only if it improves the story that we've already made in the game.
And absolutely. I was wrecked watching that episode. It was so heartwarming, gut-wrenching, beautiful. But yeah, really overall a great episode. We understand that this is probably going to be a little bit controversial because of the homosexual aspect of the episode, the relationship between Bill and Frank. People are going to be, feeling weird about that, but it's how it was in the game. You're just getting a little bit more detail, and the way that they portrayed it. I mean, how could you have not felt good for them and felt that love that they were having for each other? It was so beautifully shot, so beautifully done, so well written. I mean, it was one of the most beautiful little love stories in this TV show that I can even think of at this moment.
Absolutely.
But we loved it. We're looking forward to seeing what happens next week. Thank you guys for watching again with us this week. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave us a comment. What was your favorite moment of the episode? We'd love to hear from you guys down below. But in the meantime, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Gooch.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see y'all next week.
Next week.